Just because you're making a cozy game doesn't mean development is going to be cozy too. Making a cozy game is hard. How do I know? Because I worked on one for 4 years. And let me tell you, it was tough. There were a handful of challenges that we experienced. A big one being removing stress from the equation. There's also the question of how to write a cozy narrative, and maybe most importantly, how to even market a cozy game. This all might seem pretty straightforward, but I was surprised how difficult it was to pull off. Any idea what makes it so challenging? I'll get into that in a bit. First, thank you for tuning in. This is Stein at work. First, some context. In 2018, while at university, me and Claire started working on Here Comes Niko, the cozy 3D platformer for tired people. The idea came about when I was having a rough time. I was exhausted every day, without enough energy to properly relax. I thought I'd outgrown gaming, because I would always prefer to just watch something instead. Then I realized that out of all of the games I owned, they either focused on excitement and danger, puzzles, or economics. Take Animal Crossing for example. It's a pretty chill game, but the gameplay loop is all about economics. And while I love the chill vibes of Animal Crossing, I also really like action games. So I wanted there to be a game that somehow focused on action gameplay without using stress and release, risk and reward as a core drive. A 3D platformer without spike traps, lava or timers. Turns out making such a game is easier said than done. While exploring the possibilities of designing such a game, I quickly realized that everything I knew about platformer games as a genre hinged on the fact that the players were constantly trying to avoid failure, which is not so chill. Throughout gaming's history, design has for a large part been the art of applying just the right amount of stress. But how do you go about excluding it almost completely? The very first test I did was booting up Super Mario Sunshine and completing the objective of one of its levels. This made the shine sprite appear, turning off the music, leaving only the sound of chill ocean waves. Running around in this moment was very interesting. It told me there was definitely something to the concept. There's something very comfy about running and jumping around a relaxing space. This behavior I ended up calling frolicking, like a baby deer playing around in the woods. I eventually pinpointed that by removing risk, any stress would disappear too. So we did things like surrounding all the levels by swimmable water and thus turning them into islands. The ocean is like a big salty safety net, there to always catch you when you fall. This idea of avoiding risk is something I wanted to carry through in the rest of the design. I do admit that we weren't able to completely remove it, but we minimized it a fair amount. Still, removing something which is such a big part of what makes platformer games tick had left a big void. A void we filled with a good amount of silliness. Interactions that are inherently funny or satisfying. I made a whole video on this topic. It's pretty good, so do watch it if you have the time. I'll link it at the end of the video and in the description. I had a lot of trouble coming up with a storyline for the game. Stories too rely heavily on conflict, which is something I wanted to avoid. We eventually landed on the ultimate power fantasy, getting a nice job and being able to afford rent. In the story, Niko applies to be a professional friend at Tadpole Inc. A professional friend is someone who's nice to everyone and who occasionally gets paid. To get the job, Niko needs to finish a trial period, which is what most of the game consists of. So it's a relatively low stakes story, focusing more on the characters you're helping. Though there's a much darker side to the story, something I felt was important to include. To me, a heartwarming story doesn't work as well if the characters have only ever experienced bliss. It doesn't really resonate with me, since I've had my fair share of despair, as has anyone. I did choose to incorporate this in a particular way. Niko was experiencing a very bad domestic situation, but the game's story starts after that, after they have managed to get away from that. The story is about new beginnings and about processing trauma. There's no direct threat to Niko. They are surrounded by positivity as they try to process their past. How do you even market a game like that? We chose to focus on a few aspects. The cozy aesthetic, we tried to show off a lot of the game's details. Nice scenes with cute props, windmills, foamy beaches. These ended up being nice to look at, but they were a bit vague overall. We noticed what worked well was simply sharing a lot of gameplay. Seeing gameplay instantly makes people wonder, what kind of game is this? What also helped us a lot was showing off the game's many jokes. The game has about as much comedy as it has gameplay, and luckily people really liked that. Our main takeaway is that there's no game marketing without content creators. So it's very important to work together in a way that makes sense and is beneficial to devs, creators and their audience. Finally, you might have heard of the Wholesome Games Direct. And if you've ever seen one, you've probably heard some of my music. We were in early development when Wholesome Games emerged. We were fortunate enough to be featured on their Twitter page back then. Later, when they started doing their directs, we jumped on the chance to get included. Now the Wholesome Games community has grown so much. It's a great place for anyone interested in playing or making wholesome games. What was probably the hardest part of making our game was the technical side. Early on we decided that we wanted to bring the game to Nintendo Switch. It's a great fit after all. But the Switch is essentially an affordable handheld. So developing for it means making a game that's thoroughly optimized. This was a huge challenge because of a few factors. 1. I was incredibly inexperienced, so I made a lot of technical mistakes early on. 2. It's a 3D open world game, meaning that any camera angle the player might come up with will have to be optimized. And 3, we were using Unity, which both carries a ton of overhead and which is essentially a minefield of features that might make your game slow. Luckily, we got an insane amount of help from an insanely smart developer named Ricky. He's a true savior and I know we wouldn't have been able to release on Switch without him. Note that he recommends getting help with optimization early, even if it's just a consultation. Setting up things right can save heaps of work. We often felt like making a whole new game would have been easier than porting the game to Switch. But we did it. Thank you, Ricky. Say thanks to Ricky in the comments, everyone. In the end, I'm happy with how Here Comes Niko turned out. We regularly get messages from players to whom the game means a lot. Somehow we managed to make something that many people experience and hold dear. And the game just turned 3 years old, so we're running a big sale. 80% off just this week, so if you haven't tried it yet, now may be a good time. Having more people play and experience our game would make me very happy, as this project means a lot to me. Also, if you want to support us and these videos, leave a comment and be sure to stop by our Discord. It's a great place to chat with us directly. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A after every Stein at Work video, and we have more activities too, like Game Club. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye bye.